Welcome to the Group Leader Interest Course. My name is Dave Corbin. I'm the small groups pastor here, and I'm so excited that you're taking an interest in wanting to learn more about leading a group here at Lighthouse. I just want to take the next couple of minutes to try to unpack why we do groups, how we do groups, and what it is we expect of our group leaders. And so if we could really just start with the why really comes down to this idea that an LH group, a small group, is this really unique opportunity for us to accomplish the mission of Lighthouse. And the mission of Lighthouse is simply to reach the lost and make disciples. And that's not anything new or fancy or just some kind of whatever we pulled out of thin air. That's straight from Scripture. That's straight out of Matthew 28, the Great Commission that Jesus gives to his disciples and through them to us, that we should go and reach the lost, that we should go and make disciples of all nations. We should call them to follow Jesus. And so that's our mission, is we want to reach the lost. We want to make disciples. And then groups, we really take that and we say, okay, the way groups are going to accomplish that mission of reaching the lost and making disciples is we're going to do that by connecting people and strengthening their faith. That groups are really all about how can we connect people to each other and connect people to Jesus, and through that, how can we help strengthen their faith? And really what helps guide us through that are our four values, that there's four values Lighthouse has as a church that really help kind of steer us in the direction that we need to go. The first is that Jesus is our message. So in everything we do, no matter what we do, if it's not proclaiming Jesus as the one and only message, then we're not going to do it. And so groups are designed to be able to uphold that value of making Jesus the message, that it's not just something that we get together and just kind of have social time, although social time does happen, but we're proclaiming the message of Jesus through that social time. Because the second value is that people are our passion, that we're so passionate about people. They're the one thing that will last forever, that everything else might fade away and get burned up, but that people will last forever. And so we want to put all of our investment and our time. We want to be passionate about investing in people, connecting people together, connecting people to Jesus so that they can grow and flourish and have the life abundant that Jesus promised to those who follow him. Because the third value is that growth is our goal, and not numeric growth, although sometimes that is a sign of health. But really what we're talking about is internal growth, spiritual formation, that people are taking steps closer to Jesus, that people are growing in their faith. They're growing in their connections to other people. They're building community. They're taking steps in the right direction. And then fourthly, the value that we have is that contributing is our privilege, that we don't see being a part of this body as something that we get. We don't see being a part of a group or being part of the church as, oh, I come to just receive, but that it is a great privilege to be able to come in and contribute to what is happening. And so even in a group, that you get to contribute to the conversation, contribute to the connection, contribute to helping other people strengthen their faith. And what happens is when you're willing to contribute, when you're willing to be the kind of person that you hope other people will be to you, you end up receiving the same and more than you could have asked or imagined. And so really the why of groups is we want to accomplish the mission of reaching the lost and making disciples by connecting people and strengthening their faith, because Jesus is our message, people are our passion, growth is our goal, and contributing is our privilege. So now that we kind of understand a little bit better of what the why is, let's take a little bit of a look at how we specifically do groups here at Lighthouse. And there's really kind of one big idea, and that is the thing we want to keep at the forefront of our minds. What's the win for an LH group? It's that people are taking one step closer to Jesus, that we're seeing as community is being built, as people are being connected to one another, as we're discussing the topics, as we're going through whatever curriculum you're going through in any given semester, that people are taking one step closer to Jesus. And that might be they don't even know Jesus, and they are taking a step towards the community that you're trying to build. Maybe they do know Jesus, but they're shy, or that they feel like they don't know how to pray, and they step up and they pray out loud for the first time. That's a step closer to Jesus. Maybe their step is they decide, hey, I want to lead an LH group one day too, and that's a step closer to Jesus. And so the spectrum for that is so very wide to be able to say, hey, there's all these kind of little benchmarks that happen along the way of, hey, people take that step closer to him, whether that's just showing up to a group. Like for some people, showing up to a group for the first time is a step closer to Jesus. So we want to create environments that allow that to happen. And that's when we get to the end of our group, we're able to look back and go, yeah, I won because I can see this person took this step and this happened here. And we're able to kind of recount those stories and see all the ways that Jesus worked in us and in our group. And so that's kind of the big idea that frames how we're going to try to do things, is we want to make sure that people are taking a step closer to Jesus. And so I mentioned it kind of in passing, but we operate on a semester-based system, which means throughout the year we have 3 distinct semesters that end up having a break in between each. And so we have a fall semester, which is the one coming up, that runs from September 12th through December 11th. And then there's about a 6-week break, and then that would lead into what we call our spring semester, which usually starts right around the end of January, beginning of February, runs sometime through kind of the end of April. Then there's another kind of 6-week break, and then our summer semester usually kicks off the first week in June and runs through the end of July, and then we have another break. And so we follow that semester. It's but the kind of main reason for that is it works real well. People are used to kind of those kind of natural rhythms throughout the year. They're gearing up for back to school in the fall, come off of winter break, getting geared up to go back into things. Then summer comes along. It just kind of works well for a natural rhythm. It provides an easy on-ramp for new people to find a new group. You're not trying to jump into a group that's been together for 4 years necessarily, that there's fresh opportunities every, 8 to 12 weeks, that there's a new opportunity for new people to be able to find a connection. It gives you as a leader an opportunity to lead for a season and then maybe take a semester off and take a little break, maybe just be in a group rather than leading a group. It provides a lot of natural rhythms and opportunities for us to get people connected and to keep our leaders healthy. And so that's kind of our semester system. Beyond that, the how, there's 4 things that we ask all groups to do. We're pretty flexible for the most part when it comes to what happens in a group, but there's 4 things that every group has to do. The first is they have to gather. And that may seem pretty obvious, like of course a group's going to get together, but what we mean by gather is that there's a regular, consistent time that you're gathering. You're saying, hey, Tuesdays at 7 from this date to this date is when we're going to be meeting, or every other Tuesday at 7, or whatever it might be. You're picking a consistent time and place where you're consistently meeting during the semester. And so we ask every group to gather, to have a consistent rhythm to how they're getting together. The second is that they discuss, that small groups are not really a place to come in and teach lessons or give lectures. We have other venues for that. For groups, our primary mode for that is that people are discussing things, that there's questions being asked, there's information being presented. Sure, there's times where the leader is going to teach or somebody else might present some information for a little while. But the end goal is to get to the point where we can ask questions and have everybody be able to contribute to a discussion. Now, in this fall semester, it's a little unique. Normally, we have what we call a free market system where group leaders are able to kind of pick any curriculum or topic that they'd like to do. They submit it to us, and we kind of comb through it and approve it. And then you're able to go through whatever it is you picked for that semester. This fall semester, we've got something really big going on with a new book from Pastor Sammy, a new sermon series, and he really firmly believes, and we're all with him in this, that we should all be in together on this topic, which is called A Guide for the Disconnected. And it's really this kind of rhythm and this system that he works through in the book and will work through in the sermon series, that really helps people go from disconnected, whatever that disconnected looks like, whether it's anxiety or you're far from Jesus, or there's any number of things that cause disconnect along the way, and helps step by step kind of walk us back to a deep, abiding connection with Jesus. And so what we're asking for our groups in the fall semester to do is every group to go through this kind of custom curriculum that we've designed that will last for the whole semester. And it's really designed to make it simple on you as a leader, that you can really focus on building community, inviting people into your group, helping people that are disconnected get connected. Like, groups were built for just a time like this to help people get connected. That coming out of the season we've been in, there's been so many of just people kind of flying off, and for so many different reasons. It's not a shame on them. It's just saying that there's been so much going on that has stressed so many people out, that we need to start calling people back in. And so for this semester, unless you're trying to lead a group like Financial Peace or a grief group, a divorce care group, pregnancy or infertility loss, we have a few exceptions to that, just based on, hey, there's some very specific needs we need to make sure keep getting met through groups. Outside of that, we're asking that you hone in, you join us, from the elders and Pastor Sammy on down. We're all in on this fall. We want to be all in on a guide for the disconnected. And so we would ask you to lead that for this fall. And there's lots of good reasons for that, but there'll be a whole nother separate video that kind of explains that. But when it comes to groups, we really want people to gather, and you have to be discussing. And so this re-curriculum will really help facilitate discussion rather than just teaching. The third thing we ask all groups to do is to grow. Like we said, one of our values is growth is our goal. We really want to see people grow through prayer. We want to pray for one another. We want to help people step up in praying. We want to create opportunities for people to engage. So part of the re-curriculum is going to provide these opportunities for people to get plugged in to serving and doing Love Week, which I'll explain a little bit more in a minute. But there's going to be these opportunities that get created for people to be able to take steps of faith and have their faith strengthened and grow in their walk. But all of it just requires intentionality, that we're intentionally trying to grow. And then the fourth thing we ask all of our groups to do is to contribute. We want our groups to be contributors, not consumers. And so that starts from you as the leader, that starts in your group and how you frame things. And so we really want to encourage getting involved in Love Week, which is going to be this week-long kind of culmination of the Re-series, where we're going to go out into the community. We're going to serve the communities that we live in, that our church is planted in, that we're going to go be the hands and feet of Jesus. We're going to go with purpose to be able to bring the light and the love of Jesus to the community directly around us. So there's going to be so many different projects and opportunities to get plugged into there where your group could contribute. Also, getting your group, help encouraging them to get part of the movement team, whether that's serving at LH Kids or in production or greeting or security or parking or any number of the teams that serve on a Sunday, to help keep the church moving so that we can continue to reach the lost and make disciples. And then the kind of last way is just contributing to one another, caring for one another's needs, praying for one another's needs, helping people through difficult times, building community, and contributing towards one another. And then there's some optional things that some groups choose to do as well. Sometimes they go and they just have fun together. Rather than meeting and having a formal kind of lesson or discussion, they go out and have fun together. We have that built into this fall's curriculum. There's times where you can just go celebrate together, just go have fun together. One of the other things people do is they eat together. They'll share a meal. Sometimes they have a meal every single week, or people are providing snacks. Especially this fall with Thanksgiving, we really encourage our groups the week before Thanksgiving or the week of Thanksgiving to have a meal together as a group, be thankful together, and share a meal together as a group. And there's lots of other optional things that you can add into that. But those are the four things we ask all groups to do: gather, discuss, grow, and contribute. Lastly, what I want to talk about is what is it that we, as Lighthouse Church, expect of our group leaders. We want to make sure that you're clear on the expectations. All frustration is birthed out of unmet expectation, and so we want to keep everybody from being frustrated and make sure we're all clear on what's expected of you. And so to be a group leader, there's a couple of prerequisites. The first is that you be a partner of Lighthouse Church. We want to know that you're with us. We want you to know that we're with you, and so we ask that you go through our partnership process, which is called Growth Track. You can find that online if you go to lighthouse.church and click the Get Involved button. You can take Growth Track entirely online. It's on demand, kind of at your pace, but once you get to the end of that, you'll have the opportunity to sign the partnership agreement. And so that's a prerequisite for being able to be a group leader, is that you've completed the partnership process and are able to sign that partnership agreement, which we renew annually. You don't have to redo Growth Track every year, but you will have to re-sign the partnership agreement every year, just so that we can stuff changes, life happens. We want to make sure that we're continually renewing our agreement between each other, that I'm with you, you're with me, we're in this together. We're partnering together on this mission in this next season. The second prerequisite is that you're in agreement with our statement of faith, that we have several things that we say, hey, these are big deal theological issues that we need to all be on the same page on. There's lots of other theological issues that are kind of maybe secondary, or they're more open-handed, things that we can have differing opinions on, but they don't affect the core of the gospel. But these things are kind of the core of what we believe. And so you can check those out by going to lighthouse.church and then selecting the Visit Us button. You have to scroll all the way to the bottom of that Visit Us page, but there you can see our statement of faith. And the third prerequisite is that you've attended a Lighthouse group for at least one semester, and that comes with a recommendation from your group leader, that they recommend you in their observation of you, of how your kind of potential to lead. And so we will check in with them as well. So be a partner with us, agree with our statement of faith, and that you have a recommendation from a group that you've been in for at least one semester. Now, beyond that, once that's all taken care of, our expectation for you is that you would lead. And that sounds really simple and maybe even silly for me to say, but it's an acronym. And so bear with me for a second. That lead in and of itself, it really just means leadership is influence. And specifically in this context, leadership is influence towards Jesus. And so we want you to be a leader that influences people towards Jesus. That's our expectation of you, that you're influencing people towards Jesus. And then each one of those kind of letters stands for a kind of subcomponent of what we mean by that, or how that can be accomplished. And so the first one, the L, stands for love. Our expectation is that you would be full of love. And that starts first with love for God, that primarily above all, your connection with God is of utmost importance. If that's off, none of the other stuff can happen. And so we want to make sure that you're loving God, that you're in a healthy relationship. And yes, there's ups and downs. We just want to make sure the trajectory is in the right direction as you're moving towards Jesus. The second is that you love people. This is, the greatest commandment, that you would love God with all that you have, and that you would love your neighbor as yourself. And so we want you to love the people that are in your group. We want you to care for them and shepherd them, get to know them, be vulnerable. Sometimes the most loving thing to do is to be vulnerable, but we want you to welcome people in, be loving towards them. This isn't just an exercise in, hey, how many people can I get in my living room? This is an exercise in how can I show love to people and build community with them. So that's the L, is to love. The E stands for empower. We want you to be an empowering leader, somebody who's not just trying to do everything for everyone, but you're helping empower them to step into their own, that you're fanning into flame the gifts that God's given them. You're creating opportunities for them to be able to step into those gifts, or encouraging them. We really want you to be an encourager to people, to really call them to more, to really call them into life and life abundant. And then really empowering them through some of the resources that we have here at Lighthouse. Growth Track. We also have LHU, which is a couple different kind of courses of videos that talk about different topics, like how to connect with God, or how to be a disciple. And we're continually adding to that roster of courses, but empowering people through helping them learn more and grow more in their faith. So love, empower, and then the A stands for advance. This really comes down to don't grow stagnant. Keep moving forward. Help multiply your group, and get engaged in outreach. Help people take that step of growth. Go deeper. And by deeper, I don't mean more complex. I mean help people take steps of obedience. Keep advancing forward towards Jesus. Don't grow stagnant and sit back and get comfortable. Let's keep advancing the mission. And then lastly, the D stands for discover. We want you to discover your people. We want you to develop relationships, build community. People don't stumble into community. You don't find community. You build community. And that requires intentionality. It requires you getting to know people and letting people get to know you, that you really can take those steps towards discovering people's stories, getting to know who they are. And then through that, you can discover potential to help people take a step towards maybe leadership or some other opportunity, which then brings you back to being able to advance, which shows love. It all kind of works together. But our expectation of you as a leader is that you would lead people. You would influence them towards Jesus by loving God and loving people, empowering them, advance the gospel, and discover more about your people. Now, in summary, just to kind of recap, I think what it is all about in terms of leading an LH group is groups are on mission by building community and creating opportunities for people to take one step closer to Jesus. Let me just say that one more time. That groups are on mission by building community and creating opportunities for people to take one step closer to Jesus. If that's something you're interested in, we would love to talk to you. Please follow up with us. We're going to follow up with you once we hear that you've completed this video, and we would love to keep having a conversation with you about becoming an LH group leader. Thank you so much.